I don't think I've ever mentioned this on my channel, but something that I do quite often. I've been logged for almost 2 years, guys. Isn't that insane? It'll be 2 years in November by the grace of God. And I thought that I would come on here and talk to you guys about some common issues that you may be going through with your locks. Someone actually asked me recently how to deal with bunching, and that made me think, first of all, what is bunching and what other issues could you potentially be struggling with that I haven't addressed? Because touch wood, I haven't actually had too many issues with my locks, so I've done a little bit of research and I have 5 common issues that you might be going through with your locks, Microlocs, whatever kind of locks you have, and ways to solve them. Hi, my name is Ifeyinwa and I make videos all about fashion, beauty, and lifestyle. I also upload vlogs on Sundays. If any of that sounds interesting to you, I would love it if you checked out some of my other videos. And if you're feeling the vibe at any point in time, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you here. And of course, if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. First things first, I'm going to link my Microlocs playlist right here. If you want to know anything about my locks, trust me, I've possibly already answered them in one of my prior videos, so please check that out so that we can all be on the same page. And let's get started with the first and most common issue that I actually struggled with my locks: dry scalp. In case you don't know, when you first get your hair locked, at least with Microlocs, I'm going to talk specifically about Microlocs, but I imagine that this possibly applies to all forms of locks. Whoever does your hair, or if you do your own hair, the first thing that you will hear is that you shouldn't put any oil on your hair, no conditioner on your hair, leave your hair alone, because all of those things work against the locking process. So I follow those instructions. Prior to getting my hair locked, I had a clarifying wash done on my hair. I didn't condition my hair. I didn't let them put any product in my hair, because that's what they tell you that you're supposed to do. And my hair was installed and I loved my locks from the very beginning. And I pretty much followed that advice for months. Nothing on my hair. No conditioner, no spritz, no water, no nothing. Looking back on it, my loctician actually recommended rose water, that you could spritz your locks with rose water, I think after 4 weeks, I think. I might be wrong, but I know that I was very like, I did not want to do anything wrong with my locks, so I didn't put any form of moisture on my hair whatsoever. Now, where I think that was possibly a little bit drastic is because prior to that, I was always moisturizing my hair. I mean, I had loose natural hair and I had a very intense hydration routine. I did the LOC method, no, the LCO method. So I would use a leave-in conditioner, cream, and then seal it with an oil. So the LCO method. So imagine doing that to my hair, my scalp for years, and then doing absolutely nothing. So when I think about it, it actually makes sense that I had dry scalp. So the first time I went in for my first retie, actually, I think it was my second retie, I can't remember. The loctician told me that I had dry scalp. And I remember then the loctician that installed my hair gave me this spray, which was a water-based spray, and they don't make it anymore. I've been trying to find this product, but it was a really good spray. I really liked it. And I was using that and it was helping a lot. So I would spritz it on my scalp, not on my locks, just on my scalp. And it was definitely helping. I think at one point in time I was also using rose water. All of that was helping. However, it was more of like a alleviation thing. So I would still get the dry scalp and that would help it, but it wasn't preventing me from getting the dry scalp. Looking back on it, I possibly should have been spritzing my scalp more often than I was, but that was something that helped. Somewhere along the line, I decided to just take things into my own hands and do what made sense for me. And I found a moisturizing routine that worked for me. And if you guys are not new here, then you will know about it. I talk about it in my Microlocs maintenance video. I essentially would spritz my scalp with water, rose water, a water-based solution, whatever. I would spritz my scalp with that. And then I would go in with jojoba oil and just massage it into my scalp. I literally just did that today before I filmed. And that really has helped my dry scalp a lot. I recognize that my dry scalp is worse in the winter than it is in the summer, or like if I'm in a hot country, it's a lot better out there. And it's just something that I have to kind of stay on top of. I know a couple of you guys have suggested that perhaps I have psoriasis or dermatitis or other things like that. I do not. I've had multiple locticians look at my scalp and they've all said that it's just dry scalp. My scalp's not inflamed, it's not painful, it's not flaky. It's literally just dry. And it gets dry. And it's something that's very, very common with locks. Most people's hair will eventually get used to it because essentially our bodies will produce its own natural sebum, which is, the natural lubricant that our bodies will produce. And that should, in theory, help to keep your scalp moisturized. I've also found that in addition to my moisturizing routine, drinking electrolytes really, really helps, and staying on top of my actual hydration helps a lot. Like, I've noticed that when I'm getting my 3 liters of water a day, that I feel it in my skin, I feel it in my hair, I feel it everywhere. So it's definitely more of a hydration thing, at least for me. But of course, if you are experiencing any other symptoms like flakiness, a painful scalp, any of those sorts of things that may indicate that something else is going on. The second issue that I experienced was slippage. So slippage is when your locks start to unravel. This is something that's very, very common with new locks, or if your locks just haven't matured. I experienced slippage for the first, I think, 6 to 8 months of my lock journey, if I'm not mistaken. But I think the thing with slippage is, first of all, it really depends on your hair texture. So I had slippage around the perimeter of my hair, and that's where my hair has always been the loosest. So I know there's a bit of controversy in the hair typing system, but for the sake of, making it clear, my hair is 4A texture, at least that's what I would classify it as, around the front of my hair, and 4B towards the back. So the texture of the front of my hair has always been looser, and it's always been finer, and the hair in the back of my hair is way more tightly coiled. So from that perspective, the hair in the back would obviously lock a lot easier than the hair in the front would. The front of my hair didn't want to stay locked, so it was constantly unraveling. And how did I solve that issue? So my locticians recommended that only wash my hair at reties, and I was also advised to come in for reties more frequently. So my friends were on a 6 to 8 week lock schedule. At that point, I was on a 4 to 5 week lock schedule. So coming in more often would mean that the locticians could kind of nip whatever slippage was happening in the bud and notice it more quickly. And then me only washing my hair at reties meant that I wasn't constantly manipulating and being rough with my locks. I also at one point was only having the locticians wash my hair because I didn't want to be too rough with it. I just wanted to make sure that if there was anything going on, it wasn't me causing the issues with the slippage. So after a while, I got more comfortable, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I can definitely do this myself and save the money. So I decided to wash my hair by myself. But that's basically how I got around the slippage issue. And I think with slippage, you kind of just have to give it some time. I think it's very common. I would say possibly, depending on your hair texture, maybe up until even the first year of having locks. And after some time, my hair just started to thicken. It just started to unravel less and less over time. I think my hair really started to settle around the 6-month mark. Don't beat yourself up if that's something that you're dealing with. The third very common issue that people write to me a lot about actually is lint. Depending on where you live, like if you live in a country that requires a lot of knitwear, scarves especially, or if you just have a lot of like furry things around your house, like cushions that you lay your head on, there may be a possibility that you get lint or loose threads or just fibers trapped into your locks. And this is something that I was quite conscious about before I locked my hair, because a lot of the people that I had watched in the lock community had spoken a lot about it. So I was always very aware of it. Also, I think it's possibly something that would affect you more if your hair is longer. So like if your hair rests on your clothes a lot. Whereas honestly, I guess that applies to me now, but for the first half of my journey, I don't think my hair was like this much on my clothes. So what do I do to help prevent lint and all that kind of stuff getting into your hair? I will start off by saying I don't think it's possible to 100% prevent any form of loose thread, fiber, or anything being in your hair. I don't think it's possible, and I don't think it's worth the stress of living your life constantly worrying about it. But the things that I do, I try to be conscious of the fact that if I'm laying on a pillow that has like a furry side, I will make sure that I put on a bonnet or a hair scarf. I sleep with a bonnet or a hair scarf regardless. Even if I'm napping on the couch or just somewhere random, I would go put on a bonnet or a head scarf so that nothing's like getting mixed up into my hair. I'm also conscious about wearing super furry, like things like mohair, just, you know, that really thready type of knitwear. First of all, that kind of stuff actually makes me itch, so it kind of helps that I don't own too many things like that. But if I do have any clothes that have a lot of loose fiber, stuff like that, I honestly will just not wear them because it's really not that serious for me. Scarves as well, I try to just wear fabrics that are like this. These sorts of fabrics, they don't have any loose threads that could get trapped in your hair. And I actually prefer the look of this sort of knitwear anyway. So I stay away from like the fuzzy, furry, teddy-like things. Hats as well, I don't wear woolly hats. Obviously it's a lot easier for me because I don't live in like Canada where it's like super cold and you possibly need to wear these things. But if you do, just look for solutions that will make sure that your hair is not rubbing against those things. So you can get satin lined hats now. I'll link some down below so that whatever your hair is interacting with is smooth and there's none of that like woolly stuff getting trapped in your hair. If you have a silk pillowcase, that will also help as well, but I don't like silk pillowcases, so I just tie my hair in like a scarf. Oh, I should have said as well, tying your hair in a scarf when you're sleeping helps with slippage as opposed to a bonnet, because when you put your hair in a scarf, your hair is not moving around as much as it would in a bonnet. So I found that that actually helps with slippage as well, and that also helps to make my locks look neater for longer. Hope that helps with the lint issue. However, if you do end up getting lint, what can you do? I have seen people go to their locks with like a tweezer trying to pick out the lint. I personally wouldn't do that. I've also seen people dyeing their locks because I think that would also, I guess, conceal the appearance of it. But yeah, I just would say try and keep an eye out on these things. Another issue, marrying. So marrying occurs when your locks actually join together in an unintentional way. So combining your locks is different. When your locks start to mat together, if that makes sense. So like two locks join together and start forming one, and that's not what you had in mind for your hair. That's marrying. How do I prevent marrying? I actually wear my locks stretched. I actually made a video on how I stretch my locks, but because I stretch my locks, I think that really helps to prevent marrying. I don't think I've ever mentioned this on my channel, but something that I do quite often is I run my fingers through my locks a lot, just like that. I don't do it intentionally to prevent marrying, but it's something that I think helps. So I do this pretty much every morning. Like once I take my hair out of the braids that I sleep in, I will run my fingers through my locks like that. And every now and again, I'll come across a little bit of tension, and that's how I know like maybe some have like stuck together a bit, and I'll just go in and separate them. That's definitely something that I do subconsciously that I also think helps. I also think that would greatly depend on your hair texture. Like I said, if your hair is more tightly coiled or if your hair was coarser, I think you'd possibly experience that more. Oh, while we're on the topic of marrying, I should also possibly talk about how combining locks intentionally can help prevent your locks from snapping off. So that's something that happens when your locks are too small. So the way my loctician explained it to me, she said that as your locks start to grow out, obviously they'll become heavier. And as they become heavier, they put more strain on your roots. So if your locks are too small, the strain on the roots will become too much and then they will eventually pop off. My loctician recommended that I actually combine a couple of my locks. I'll probably talk about this more when I do my 24-month lock update, God willing. But the whole situation around that is if you are experiencing your locks looking a bit thin around the edges or like they're about to snap off or anything, don't be afraid to combine your locks. That's the only way you can maintain the integrity of your locks. Bunching. Now, bunching is the one issue that started this whole video. So I actually had to go and look up what bunching is. I will put up some pictures. I honestly don't really know how to describe this, but from what I understand, it's when your locks are almost kind of like squeezing together, if that makes sense. I don't really know what causes it. I would imagine that the way your locks are installed and the texture of your hair would possibly influence this specific issue. But with bunching, from the research that I've done, you almost have to kind of go in with a tool, so like a Microlocs tool or Locs tool, whatever it is that you're using, to almost re-interlock your hair to stretch it out. Again, because I don't maintain my locks myself, if I have experienced this or if there have been any issues with my hair having this in the past, I'm sure my loctician has just fixed it and not brought it to my attention. But I will link this girl's video in my description box because she actually solved her bunching issue herself. I really think that if you have the means, certain things like bunching, gaps in your locks, I would say go see a loctician just to make sure that things are being repaired properly. But again, if you are maintaining your locks yourself, it's definitely possible, and I'll link that girl's tutorial that I was just telling you guys about as well in my description box. Okay guys, so those are all the issues that I'm going to be discussing today. If there are any other issues that you've experienced with your locks that I have not touched on, please let me know, and I will also come back and do a part 2. Or if there's any other advice that you may have on any of the issues that I have discussed that's different from what I've mentioned, please mention in the comments. We can help each other out. I am not a Microlocs expert. I'm not a loctician. If you guys are new here, or if you've only ever watched my Microlocs videos, please check out some of my other ones. I make videos on fashion, styling, mid-size styling, luxury fashion, handbags, travel stuff, lifestyle vlogs, so many different things, and I would love to see you guys on some of my other videos as well. So I'll leave this here and I will catch you guys in my next one very soon. Stay blessed, stay safe, and take care. Bye.